I want to wish you all a warm welcome and thank you for being at our meeting tonight. It's been a very long time since we had an all hands on deck meeting at this conference. It's our first with me since 2005. I don't know when one existed before, but I wanted to introduce our officers briefly. You met John, who peeked in the door here a moment ago. John Gindy is our secretary. He keeps our notes from our meetings and keeps us organized. Joe Bosco, who is not here this evening, is our treasurer, and he keeps us balanced to the penny. And we are in the black consistently. Bill Gerhardt is right here. He is our reluctant vice president, but he helps me out when I'm unable to attend certain meetings or do certain functions, as he lives a little closer than I do. And Dan Bush, our pantry manager, he's the guy that really deserves a lot of credit for transforming this room and those refrigerators and freezers and providing the people we serve with a lot of variety and a lot of hearty goodness. Wanted to make sure to introduce all of them. And I'm Brant, you know me, president since 2005 here. Our conference is one of 50 in the Portland Council. We're one of 50. We're also one of the oldest, having been formed in 1929. Right behind the door you can see our original charter in the frame. 1929 we started gathering. There were 9 members who met, and they used to meet weekly. And everything was hand ledgers. We found some old ledgers.
Some of the food's still here today.
No, no, past date. This past year, our conference served 733 people, 35 families per month on average. We handled over 33,000 pounds. I wish Scott was here, Scott Campbell. He helps Dan considerably. He quit his gym membership because of his once a week loads of food. If you could imagine 33,000 pounds divided by every other week, he's moving some freight, and so he quit his gym membership. And we also paid out about $6,000 in rent and utility assistance. We get those, but we're able to handle those just over the phone most of the time. Our primary purpose here is to grow deeper in our faith. And we do this by gathering at our meetings. We hold meetings twice per month, as you know, looking deeper into the words Jesus gave us, and specifically what he asked us to do on his behalf, to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. We choose to provide food to our neighbors in need as that gift. In years past, we were able to carry out this work by our own rules for the most part, but in recent years, Oregon Food Bank, as our primary source for foods, is dictating how to handle those foods with greater and greater scrutiny, and thus the reason for a meeting with everybody present, so that hopefully we can explain some things about the pantry, how it works, how we get our foods, where we need your help, and just how to continue to do a good job. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dan.
I have to use notes because I'm not a great speaker, but one of the things with Oregon Food Bank, it's beyond just giving people food, and the days of emergency boxes are less and less, especially in this neighborhood, as you probably know. The bigger focus is on nutrition. They believe that nobody should go hungry in this country, and that's what they effort to do through their organization. They have certain policies and procedures. It gets a little complicated. This is something that we have to, this is one of 3 books that we use occasionally. This is the primary one. This is our guidelines to things like health and safety, civil rights, all sorts of things play into how we do our pantry and our foods. So their idea is to get foods to the people in need due to their situation, no matter what that is. At the same time, facilitating their nutrition for health and well-being, both physical and mental, because food does bring people together, they feel better, etc. So now the brass tacks. Something to realize is that we can't be a grocery store. Our foods, that's not our purpose, and we can't get it. We can't get everything unless we go out and purchase it at direct cost, at the cost that you pay at the grocery stores. We have big difficulties getting fresh products, especially dairy, produce, and as you probably know, fruits and vegetables. We also have a difficulty fulfilling special diets. There was a point in time when we started to see some of the diabetic foods and also the gluten-free foods, but that has virtually washed up. There's either a greater demand for it, so it's not going to post-date, or the stores are pulling back. I'm not sure which. Our foods kind of come and go in spurts from time to time. So sometimes you're going to get the request for a special diet, and you just do the best you can do with what we have. The person who has that diet they'll be knowledgeable enough to know what they can't use and stuff. So you can't feel bad if you give them something that's got wheat in it and they're gluten-free. They'll give it away. That's okay. There's no law that says they can't give it to their friend or their neighbor. There's nothing like that. You're not violating anything like that. We operate on a limited budget and limited resources of manpower and time. So this is how we get our foods. Oregon Food Bank is the primary source. They get their food by donations, the food industry in particular, individuals, and also local institutions, businesses that provide food under what's called Fresh Alliance. They also handle the USDA allocations, and that's why you have to have these signatures, because the feds make it a little bit more complicated, you may say, where they have to sign in if they're going to receive USDA foods. And our USDA foods are mixed in here. I could point out a few of them, but you don't have to worry whether you're given a USDA or not. You give whatever you feel you want to give. You don't have to do a percentage. You don't have to worry. If the person refuses to sign, they refuse to sign. That's okay. Just put down they refuse to sign, so we know. Because we have to maintain these, and they get looked at potentially by OFB on behalf of USDA. So we have no real control on what we get from OFB. Sometimes they're tricky in their ordering system. They'll say high protein food. So I go, oh, I can get 6 of those. I order it. I get 6 cases of refried beans. Thanks a lot. So what am I going to do with those? So so we have no control. We have no control on the dates. We have no control on the quality, what we receive, and how much we can receive. This morning I placed an order as an example, and the only fresh product I could purchase for hardly anything was one case of chicken. No beef, no pork, no apples, no oranges. That's just, now next week, perhaps. So it kind of comes and goes. And that's why you may be disappointed from time to time when you go to the refrigerators and you go, God, the selection here is low. We only get to place 1 order a week. It used to be we could do 2 and sometimes even 3. But they've reassessed the partner agencies, and we are a tier 3, I think is what it is. So we get the foods that tier 1 and tier 2 don't take. And I've been to a tier 1 site, and it's a semi-truck. And they go through it a week in meals that they do, and also food that they distribute. So we also get donations. Those happen through OFB. The school, for 9 months, we get between about 100 and 200 pounds of food from the school. The parish, that's small, but it keeps coming. Every Sunday we'll have a few things. There's one person who always gives us VO5. We always get that. I haven't fought a VO5 and some dish soap every week. So, but occasionally we get donations. I have to tell you, often we'll get things that have been opened, used. Part of the product has been taken, or they're really. I've had foods dated back to 2009 given to us. So all of that's monitored, by the way. When it comes in, we're watching. The school checks their foods, and I double check them here before they go into our pantry. Sometimes things will slip through. So if in doubt, take a quick look. If it looks odd to you, take a look for that date. If you can't find the date and you're uncomfortable, the rule is, if in doubt, throw it out. No problem. No problem. We also do shopping, where we've gone to stores and made purchases where foods are being discounted. We've made purchases through coupons, and sometimes I have the wherewithal to ask if there's a discount for benevolent organizations, and Safeway will give me 10%. So we got 26 or 28 ounce Heinz ketchup one time for like 79 cents. So when we can do that, we do, but not all the time. We go to a lot of the grocery stores where there's dented products or products that are dated, and we can get those. One of the examples is when Hagen's was closed in Milwaukee, we kept watching that sign, 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%. Then we went in and we made a huge purchase of canned foods, vegetables and fruit, and that supplemented us for quite a long time. We get those monies by donation that people contribute to us. Paper products and personal care items, like I mentioned, we get the VO5 every Sunday, but we actually go out and purchase those. And to keep the cost down, because we're not going to buy a $5 toothpaste. That's 99-cent toothpaste. And I'll buy everything that's on the shelf, and the store's happy, and we get a good deal, and they're large containers, and it's got fluoride in it, so good enough, you know. And we actually buy our toilet paper. Those type of products are a direct purchase. So, and we also watch for deals from time to time. What I'd like to do is go over with you and provide to you a handout. If I know what I did, but here it is. What a food box should contain. If each one of you can take one or more of those if you'd like. If you have somebody that you know is a volunteer and you could give that to them, that'd be great. This is what you're looking at on the board right here.
I had another handout also. Might be behind, right there.
Oh, that's.
Could you pass those around
yeah,
too?
This is our outline.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is the outline of what we're going to do today.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, hey, I'm bad. So this is what Oregon Food Bank, who we depend upon a lot, and they depend upon us to get the food disseminated, suggests that you use as a guideline for filling food box. And you can see that our group is right here. When when we look at the numbers at the end of every month, it's mostly singles and twos, occasional 3 and 4, but we're usually in this neighborhood. I think the key to me is this last statement at the top. A little extra can make a difference. I don't mind how much you take. I don't mind restocking at all. So if you're going to give them one chili and you want to give them 2, that's fine. If you want to give them 1 chicken chili and 1 beef chili, that's fine. There's no rules. That little bit can make a difference. The one thing too that they're looking at is in terms of nutrition. That's why you'll see some of these foods that are they kind of limit them down, because the nutritional value, when we purchase our foods from OFB or we get them donated from OFB, they actually have a nutritional rating from 0 to 3. And they have a score that they'd like us to hit. Well, that's a whole other task that we haven't embarked upon. But this is based upon that scoring. It's hard to get white wheat products. I can get all the whole wheat spaghetti that I want free. If I want the white, I have to purchase it. So the deterrent is to purchase the whole wheat get the whole wheat free rather than pay for the white. So if you use this, the thing that I have found, sometimes a person that you are going to provide food for says, I don't want a certain kind of food. That's fine. That's okay. You want to honor their request. If they say, give me 5 cans of pork and beans, we've only got a case sitting on the shelf, use your judgment. So food datings, one other thing I forgot to mention, behind you is what's called the onesies on that top shelf there, and sometimes it overflows and goes down to the bottom shelf. Those come mostly by donation, boxes or sacks of food that come in, or they're the last couple from a supply of food that we got that we can no longer get. Because what you see on the shelf, we may not have in 6 months. They may not give us any more broth. And so the last 2 cans of broth will be over there, so I can put something else here. The other thing we get is OFB has they get donations. People just drive up with their cars full of food. And they go through them, throughout the dents and that sort of thing, check the dates. They put them into boxes, and we get those boxes free. I call them surprise boxes because sometimes, what am I supposed to do with that? Or you'll get a whole case of one thing. It's just wild and crazy how that comes. But we get those, and that's where we put those. So those are the items. You can take as many of those as you would like to put in a box. it's, the biggest thing that tickles me is when I come down and I see that that's almost empty. 'Cause those, sometimes there's some fun foods over there. So, feel welcome to take those at any time. The other thing is we try to provide multiple options. For example, we have both brown and white rice. And then over here is our milk area, and the hemp is my favorite. But the others are, we have a coconut milk, we have the standard milk, which is at 1%, and we have a soy beverage, and then there's another one there. Almond milk. What I'd like to show you something, if I can deter for just a minute. This is what the pantry looked like. Excuse me. This is what the pantry looked like when I came down. Notice that all of these options are still here, but maybe 5 of the regular milk have gone out. Not to be critical of anybody, but what would be cool is if you took one milk and then took one of these. Now, will they like it? Who knows? If they don't, they throw it out. If they don't like it, they may give it to their neighbor who loves it, and that's cool. That's okay. That's not a problem. Sometimes, I know myself, I'll be on one kind of food and all of a sudden I try something else and go, that's pretty good. So feel welcome to take variety when you're taking foods like that. So what I talked about is we do check all the foods when they come in. Yeah, we can make a mistake and miss one. Sometimes it's really hard to see the dates. There are some foods I cannot tell and I don't like them and they go in the garbage can.
And excuse me, when you say throw it out, where do?
That garbage can right there. Or you can set it right up here and just put a note on and say no good.
Okay.
You know, you can take the black marker from in here and write NG on it, for example. That's no problem. I trust your judgment. If you don't like it, throw it out. That's okay. Rather be safe than sorry. Now, foods will have a use by or a best by date. That is all about sale. Those canned foods that are here, those are legal, if you will, for 4 years after the good by date. 4 years. When you've been in the military, you know what food is when it's 4 years old. So the frozen foods that we get, they're normally flash frozen, they're very hard. There's up to 90 days, or if it deteriorates. Sometimes we'll get, the one freezer gives us some problem with freezer burn, and we'll throw it out at 30 or 60 days, but we can go 90 days. The meats, we can go 90 days from the date that they said it was due by. Yes?
Well, this is all very interesting, but when I come in here, I'm assuming that anything on the shelf is okay.
Yes.
I'm not looking at, am I obligated to look at the,
Out there you are.
oh, I am?
Yeah. In here, you shouldn't have to. And I'll get to reasons why you have to watch out in the refrigerators.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a couple other reasons that you have to watch
All
the
right,
refrigerator.
good.
And the only other point to clarify is you're allowed to take anything in here as long as it's above your waist.
Right.
Oh, I know, yeah.
No, yeah. Okay, and this is getting to the gentleman's point. Some of the meats in the poultry and the pork will deteriorate. It'll discolor really bad. Always remember, we got it because it was going bad. It was going out of date. The fluorescent light or whatever light they're using had discolored the food, the product itself. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's not going to sell. And so we get it. We get the food that's on third base, not the food that's going up to bat. So, the fish doesn't hold up real well. Now the fish, this fish that we currently have was flash frozen by the manufacturer.
Pollock.
The pollock. So we can hold that for 90 days. The fish that we get from Fresh Alliance, which is a division of OFB that goes out to the grocery stores and picks up the foods that they're going to give away, those are 30 days on the fish. And sometimes even when they come, we don't like them. When the crab is moving after you so we have 1 year. We have 1 year on pastas, and as I mentioned, 4 years for most of the canned foods. The ones that we watch real closely are the acidics. So let's go to how we're doing the foods now. As you probably all know, we're using these folding boxes. They're very easy. We've had a few get broken by accident. All you do is push down the side, push it out till it clicks, and it's ready to go. They'll hold 70 pounds. but you know, you don't wanna, anything plastic, you don't wanna get that heavy. They'll hold 2 sacks very well, and we intentionally purchase sacks that are 70-pound rated. That's the highest rating we can get, short of going to almost half cardboard. And of course, if you fill a sack up too high, then it's gonna wanna, you know, fall over. And then there's a little bit of room in the middle where you can put like your frozen food bag and things like that. To knock these things back down, it's just a little bit of a hit, a little wiggle, and it just drops. So, and we're rotating them where the ones that are on the bottom, we move the stack around so we don't wear the first 3 out or whatever, but we've lost a few. So, all of your glass
I wanted to
products.
say, I think those have been great.
Well, it's been hard to get the boxes. You know, we used to go to the liquor store. Those are great boxes, but people are competing for those boxes. So the boxes we do get, you're welcome to use. Where they come from, I get at my work, we always have boxes, and also when we get our food, they come in boxes, and we try to save some that are a certain size. Now, there is Dan's boxes, which are the folded down ones here. Those are set aside for our Christmas program. So we do that meal at Christmas, and we need certain size boxes for the volunteers, so we try and save those. I missed something here. Oh yes, glass products, like the dill pickles. Anything that's in glass has to go into a plastic bag by itself. That's an OFB rule. The reason for that is, should it break, you have the ability to contain it without ruining the other food, so you don't have to throw away a whole sack of food, that sort of thing. The frozen foods have to go into a bag before you put them in, and that's primarily to prevent them, as they defrost a little bit, as you're carrying them, from making your bag soft, and you pick up the bag or the box in it.
Or cross-contamination.
And cross-contamination. Especially when you're putting, and poultry should not be mixed with meat. Meat can be with the pork, but the poultry can't be with the pork or the meat. It's kind of like they're not compatible. Sort of. So,
Okay.
yeah, so
What? Hold on a minute,
you don't put the poultry with the other products.
but with the pork, wait, you said pork, wait, is that the extent of it? No poultry with other products?
Right.
Okay, that's
Right.
easier
And that's
than-
because of the salmonella.
Okay.
So, and you can use as many bags as we have. That's no problem. So, the one thing I'd ask is if you're in here and you see sort of a mess, like there's boxes laying around or stuff like that, if you can kind of just pick it up, it helps keep the thing clean for the next people that coming in. I'm usually down here about 3 times a week, but you know, some days are really busy. Some days we'll go a week with no deliveries. And then all of a sudden we'll just have delivery after delivery. So if anybody can help, just kind of put things away. These trays on the cans and stuff, you can set them over there on the side behind the gentleman behind the door right there. Just throw them up there. We keep those so that when we get products that are in big boxes, we can subdivide and put them up on the shelf. So the products that are in these 2 refrigerators, they're what we consider our fresh products. This is going to be our fruits and vegetables primarily. Here is going to be your dairy products, the eggs, the cheese, the yogurt. We're getting the product when it's expired, or we wouldn't be getting it. We'd have to go purchase it. So when we get there, there's this big room, refrigerated room, we go in and we're shuffling, trying to beat everybody else that's out there to get something that has some dates on it. When we get it, we may only have 3 days left before it's to be thrown away. That's where I can't be here every day to check it. So that's what you would do, is you would look on, let's say you have a yogurt, which is a real common item with us. Yogurt is 14 days from the date that it says Best Buy. If it's close to that date, if it's 2 days to that date, I'm gonna leave it here hoping somebody's gonna take it. If it's at that date and you don't like it, or you see it at that date, throw it out. But here's the kicker. You can't throw it in the garbage can or that little white can. We had a situation where some spoiled meat got thrown in that can, and for 2 days, people were looking for the odor. We thought it was a sewer. And I was in the basement, and it wasn't over there, it wasn't in the pantry, it was in this general area.
All
and I
3
walked-
levels, you could smell it.
Oh yeah, it was hideous. And I walked by that garbage can, it was really strong. I came back by, it was really strong. I'm like a knucklehead. I put my hand down, and there was the meat. So it was just a mistake. So, okay, what do you do with it if it is this kind of product? On the south end of our building is a garbage can, and it's green, and you can just throw it in there. You don't have to put it in the bag or anything. You can just throw it in there. Make it easy for yourself. However, it's locked. The reason it's locked is we can't allow the homeless people to get a hold of those products. The key hangs on the wall, and I'll show that to you, in the pantry. It's a hassle. You have to take the key out there, unlock it, throw the food away, hook the padlock back up, but bring the key back down here, because it's the only key. If we lose the key, we have to get another padlock, and we have to get it through Hyper. They've been wonderful. We've had a few instances where it's been lost. They've been great. So, just take a look at this, at the products that you're getting, because it could be that it has gone past due before someone's gone down here and thrown it away or checked it. And so all those dates of the various products are here. Yogurt and kefir, which we've had the kefir before, the kefir, whatever it is. Half and half, we've had that. Cottage cheese occasionally. Why do we only have 3 of something, 2 of this, 6 of that? That's all we can get. Basically, what the stores do is they start dumping all this stuff into these containers, and OFB checks it and sends it into this cooler, and then we go through and scramble and get it. We don't go to a grocery store. We go to a warehouse where everything's just sitting in boxes and stuff.
Is this the one up in North Portland?
Yes. Eggs. They're the hardest item. We are now dating our eggs. We can hold the eggs 35 days after the date that the egg producer puts on them. So we're trying to watch that real carefully. OFB is coming out with a new kind of policy statement on that. They told us at our inspection, so we'll know more. You can give a dozen eggs, even though the device in there's the list says a half a dozen for a person. It's okay. I've ordered 2 cases this morning with the hopes that we can give a dozen out because they didn't cost us anything. So why not, right? You can't handle the eggs. That's the trick. You cannot take a dozen eggs legally and pick them up and put them into these half containers unless you hold a health card and you do it in a commissary, which means an inspected kitchen. Do I do this? Yeah, I have the health card. This is my commissary. What they don't know don't hurt. Okay, it's an egg. So no, but we do subdivide. You can't technically. So, but you do have to wear gloves when you're working in this area. And we now have this little rack over here with a small, medium, large, and now extra large. The first gloves we got, I apologize. We thought they were good. They weren't. These are much better gloves. They're a nitrile, so I don't think most people don't react to the nitrile. The latex is a problem for some people. They're powder free also, so your clothing won't get anything on it.
So you have to have them
You have to
when you
have
go
gloves.
into these freezers.
Yes, yeah. Especially this one, the vegetables, the meat, the chicken.
Okay.
Yeah, it was about last year that they
2 years
emphasized
ago.
that. Yeah, yeah, so.
It's a rule.
They're actually gonna ask us to wash our hands before and after. So we're seriously considering a hand washing station here where you can walk up and you don't have to touch anything. It'll turn on, wash your hands, we'll have soap and towels and stuff like that. It's just the change in, safety rules that's coming up. I work in wastewater treatment. You wouldn't believe what we have to do now. So, unbelievable. So, disposal of products, again, if in doubt, throw it out. That I would rather you throw it out if you're concerned than to pass when it's sitting on the shelf. Not all dents are bad. It has a lot to do with how severe the dent is and location. If it's on a seam, then that's a very bad location. If it's near the top where the actual canning occurs, it's fine. Because a lot of the cans now are extruded where the bottom is part of the body. And so it can be as dented as it can be, as long as it doesn't affect that seal on the very top. It's still the product inside is good. Don't feel bad. This is a personal opinion, but if you give a person a dented can, it's still food. And it's been given to OFB for free or at an extremely reduced price, and we get it for nothing, so to speak. And I dislike it when I have to take products that could have gone out and they go fill up that old garbage can outside. So it does have to have a label on it though. If it's missing a label, please don't take it. If the label can be loose and you can tape it on, that's okay, as long as what's inside is what the label says it is. Sometimes our tuna fish, for whatever reason, the labels all start coming off, The tape's over there in those little trays, go ahead and tape it on, or grab one that is that's got its label and set the other one there on the counter with the label, and I'll fix it later. That's okay. The following couple issues are, well, not call them issues, they're things that we need help on. The one that I see a lot of that sometimes rattles my cage, that's me, is what I call shopping. What shopping is behind us here, we have an odd brand of peas, and somebody took the Green Giant because that's a known brand. The reason that is a problem is we still have to move those double luck peas. And believe it or not, double luck was probably made in the same facility as the Green Giants. There's only so many manufacturers of this stuff. And it's a matter, John was telling me earlier that his father was at one of the canneries, and the San Am or the Del Monte went through first, and then it was followed by a different brand. And the beans were the same stock, just different sizes. And that's the way it works. So, yeah, this is something we'd ask to take the products that we have. That helps with rotation. The other item is where we take the foods occasionally from below the yellow line. This is the don't cross line, so to speak. The reason that's asked not to be done is it messes up rotation. And occasionally, some of these foods are so close to date that we're getting ready to throw them out. But I've got to get the time to get the pickup truck over here to grab them to go to the dump and all that kind of stuff. So if you can stay above the yellow line, that helps us a lot. Also, if a box or a food runs out and you see a box or case of that food, if it's not on the shelf, it's not available. Here's an example. We had an order of eggs. We got in a lot of eggs, and the eggs were dated. We were going to have to throw out an entire case of eggs. So we have kind of just a gentleman's agreement working relationship with St. Francis Dining Hall. We get some odd foods from time to time, and sometimes boo-boos happen on the order where I think I'm ordering this, and all of a sudden this 10-pound beef comes, and I go, what am I going to do with that? We take it over to them, and they willingly take it off our hands. So we set aside that dozen eggs for them, which we were going to take over on, I think it was a Friday, but we ran out of eggs or something, and somebody opened up the case. Once the case is opened, it can't leave the premises. So if it's a box and it's closed, it's like, that person doesn't get eggs that time for whatever reason. So, because there's other reasons than just stock that we have things in holding. Yeah. Excess, which we talked about. If instead of taking 2 and 3 milk for a person, if you took one of the hemp and one of the coconut and one of the milks or something, by the time that they open, they see it in their box and everything, you're gone, so they can't complain. Just have to hurry.
Till next time.
Oh, I'm not going to her place. So, and then just what might be called hurriedness. Remember that these have to come back because we have to track these. It also helps knowing what went out on what date, especially if we have a recall. And we had a recent recall on some chia seeds, and we also had a recall on tuna. Not very often, but when it happens, it's a big deal. Our phones just explode with calls. Do you have this? So we got to go back to the records and see when we purchased it. I think the last item.
Many of you may recall we had a whole month supply of sheets that we put in with our food boxes explaining about a recent recall because we didn't know where it went exactly. We don't track it specifically like
pumpkin
that.
Seeds and something else.
Yeah. It was a common item.
It was an item that came in one of these kind of sacks, and it actually had a label and everything, but something came up either at the manufacturer, the supplier, whatever, and boy, they were scrambling because the product had been distributed back in November, and the recall was in like March. So it's like, oh my gosh, where did it go? Who's got what? So, yeah. OFB is very responsible, but these things happen. So, in closing, if you see issues, report them. Don't be hesitant to say, hey, we're out of this, or hey, this is broken, or hey, I saw this, or I'm concerned about that, or the other thing. We will get another light in here, I promise you someday. It's sort of a team effort, because if you let me know or Brent know that something's wrong, that helps, rather than coming down here and finding out we've got a problem, or if you notice one of these freezers doing something crazy, you get there and it's you happen to look at it, it's recording 20 degrees above zero, that's a problem. What our temperatures have to be is 41, 40 basically, or less on the refrigerators, and it has to be freezing or below in all the freezers at all times. Now, some of the freezers will do this little, I call it a door defrost. It stops running and allows the ice in the doors to dissipate, and you'll see a little bit of drip of water down below. That's normal on some of our equipment. But if you notice the temperature's wrong, just a phone call, and we'll take care of it. You don't have to hang around or do anything like that. I know that sometimes not all this is convenient and easy. We try to make it so, but there's only so much time and that sort of thing. If you have things that you'd like to see done, like an elevator to go upstairs, so you speak up. So yeah, but really, thank. I know the people that are here tonight are the real. You're committed to doing this, and I know we all appreciate it, and I know the people that are receiving the food certainly appreciate it. Yeah, 70% of our calls go to the Tenino building, but if they weren't living in the Tenino building, they'd be somewhere else. So, yeah. Thank you. very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Dan, you really made a great job. I mean, I've been doing it for 5 years, and the last 2 years have been much, just very well organized, and it's much easier to do it.
Okay, good. Yeah, if it makes it easier for you, that's a
Well,
good thing.
it's never been not convenient.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
really appreciate that.
Yes.
Just, and you
Okay.
make us look good. We get the thank you.
Just out of curiosity, do you get feedback
Not
from anybody just saying, hey? I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, they always say, most of them are very nice and say thank you.
Right.
And really appreciate it.
From the
Pray for
client?
you.
From the
From the clients, yes.
Very occasionally. I think I've had 3 or 4 notes in the 13 years I've been doing this, where we get a mailed thank you note saying how nice the person was to deliver, and they even carried it up our stairs or whatever the special request was. And some people are just really appreciative.
Yeah, I just was curious if you get feedback, because
Yeah.
I mean, most of them are very
Yeah.
feel very appreciative and are thanking you, and you're walking out there
Yeah.
and saying thanks, and
And conversely, I can only recall one or two situations where we've had what I'll call an unruly client, not very thankful kind of person, and we actually had to talk to them and say, look, this is not, you cannot treat our volunteers who are taking their time to bring you food, you can't treat them that way, and it's not going to be tolerated. So, make it change. But that's only happened once or twice in 13 years that I've
I've
known
never
it.
seen that. But
I
I have
do-
one other question though, Dan. When you get the vegetables, do they have to go in this plastic bag? When they're already in a plastic bag, do they still have to go in one of those
They
black?
just have to be in a bag.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
so the
fine.
vegetables,
So
when you get
that's
the.
why we have those sacks up above. The sacks are still good for vegetables. Now, of course,
No,
if
no, but what's the right, just tell me what the right process is. Do I put the
you have,
plastic bags of vegetables where they're frozen?
right.
Do you put those in another black sack, or do you not have to do that?
No, you can put the plastic bag in the container.
In the
That's
container.
okay.
That's okay.
Or
That's
you
what
can
I'm-
put it in the sack that has your foods also. That's okay.
Okay. I
As
just
long as
wanted-
there's that separation.
Okay.
That's the idea. And we have the paper bags there for things like the oranges and potatoes and stuff like that, because
Yeah.
that's the way it works at a grocery store, right?
Right.
So it's when you get sometimes we'll get romaine and stuff like that, and the condensate will build up. Well, that'll mess up your bag if you put that in there. By the time you pick it up, it falls apart, that sort of thing.
Any other questions or comments? Well, thank you all for coming this evening,
Yeah, thank
and we do appreciate it. Know that we have these kind of discussions on a smaller scale every other week. We're trying to move the agenda forward all the time, but it's simply manpower. There's only a handful of us that are at these meetings most of the time, and we would welcome if you have extra time beyond making deliveries in your life and want to get involved. We welcome you. Well, thank you all
Thanks.
for coming, and always feel free to address any questions to me either via email, because I know you get my emails all the time, and I'm sorry for that, but I do appreciate when you all respond and offer to help.